President Donald Trump's biggest accomplishments as president. Let's talk about President Donald Trump's accomplishments first. Accomplishment number 1. Reshaping the federal judiciary. Trump's most lasting impact on the country will be the reshaping of the federal judiciary. Thus far, Trump has installed 2 Supreme Court justices and 187 judges to the federal branch, all for lifetime appointments. Trump nominees now make up roughly 25% of all U.S. Circuit Court judges. According to an analysis by The Washington Post, he's appointed 50 judges on the 13 U.S. Circuit Courts and still has roughly a year left in his term. To put this into perspective, former President Barack Obama appointed 55 circuit judges in his 2 terms in the White House. The courts get the final say in U.S. politics, setting precedents that can shape the country for years to come. Even if Trump is not re-elected in 2020, his presidency will continue to have an impact on the direction of the U.S. due to the sheer number of conservative federal judges he's installed. Accomplishment number 2. Space Force.
Space. Gonna be a lot of things happening in space.
In signing a $738 billion defense spending bill just a few days before Christmas, Trump officially established the 6th branch of the U.S. Armed Forces, the Space Force. The Space Force is the first new military service since the U.S. Air Force was created in 1947.
The Space Force will help us deter aggression and control the ultimate high ground.
Despite its name, the new branch has not been established to protect the planet from potential extraterrestrial threats, but is tasked with protecting the U.S. military's assets in space. This is not a farce. This is nationally critical. General John Raymond, who Trump tapped to lead the Space Force, told reporters earlier this month, "We are elevating space commensurate with the importance to our national security and the security of our allies and partners. Many of the details surrounding the Space Force still must be ironed out. In many ways, the new branch is simply a more centralized version of military missions in space."
There's pretty much nothing that we do as citizens of this world that isn't tied to space.
That already existed from the Air Force, Army, and Navy. Todd Harrison, who directs the Aerospace Security Project at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, recently told NPR, "It will create a centralized, unified chain of command that is responsible for space, because ultimately when responsibility is fragmented, no one's responsible."
Space Force.
Accomplishment number 3. Tax reform.
So now we're going to go for tax reform, which I've always liked.
3 years into his presidency, Trump's signature legislative achievement remains as a Republican tax bill that made sweeping changes to the tax code, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act.
We're going to undertake one of the great tax reforms and simplifications in American history.
As business insider Joseph Zabello's Roig recently reported, the law was the biggest overhaul to the nation's tax code in 3 decades, and the president pitched it as rocket fuel for the American economy. It permanently slashed the corporate tax rate to 21% from 35%.
From 35% down to 15%.
While also providing temporary benefits for individuals and their families. Critics argued it was a windfall for massive corporations at the expense of the middle class. Meanwhile, supporters of the tax cuts contended it would unleash an economic bonanza. Business would invest in their operations, they said, resulting in improved worker productivity and higher wages. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, among others, said the law would juice the nation's gross domestic product to 3%, or more, as Trump said 6%, and soon pay for itself and spread prosperity. But the law has achieved none of the ambitious goals that the Republicans put forward, and there are scant signs they ever will.
Do you believe in raising taxes on the wealthy?
I do, including myself. I do.
Accomplishment number 4. Defeating ISIS's caliphate and taking out Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. ISIS shocked the world in 2014 when it took over a large swath of territory across Iraq and Syria and declared it a caliphate. The terrorist group's international holdings were the basis for its so-called caliphate and provided at will a major base of operations to conduct attacks across the world. After a 5-year effort led by the U.S., ISIS's caliphate was finally defeated in March 2019. Trump has at times falsely claimed that ISIS is totally defeated, embellishing the extent of the U.S. military success against the terrorist organization during his presidency. Though the terrorist group has lost its territory, its so-called caliphate is still estimated to have up to 18,000 fighters in Iraq and Syria. In late October, a U.S. raid led to the death of ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Baghdadi was the world's most wanted terrorist up till that point. And his death represented a major blow to the terrorist group. Last night, the United States brought the world's #1 terrorist leader to justice, Trump said at the time.
Special Forces brought the world's #1 terrorist to justice.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. Capturing or killing him has been the top national security priority of my administration, he added. So Americans, we've come to the end of this video. What qualities do you look for in a president? What quality of President Donald Trump do you like the most? Comment below, and if you haven't subscribed to American Truth, then what are you waiting for? Do subscribe to American Truth for more interesting and informative videos like this. Also, share this video with your friends and families so that they could be a part of American Truth. Until then, keep watching American Truth.